Every year, hundreds, thousands, even millions of them are abandoned, left cold and alone, waiting for someone to return and complete their purchase on your e-commerce website. By helping streamline your checkout process and removing unnecessary roadblocks, you too can help save abandoned shopping carts. That's pretty good, huh, bud? These are the 7 deadly sins of checkout that can affect a shopping cart abandonment rate. Just to clarify, an abandoned shopping cart is any time a user goes onto your site, adds an item into their shopping cart, but then doesn't complete the purchase. Now, this can happen for a wide variety of reasons, and many of them are unpreventable, like a user was doing price comparisons, or maybe they just got called away. It happens. You're never going to get that rate all the way down to 0. However, there are things that you can do to optimize your cart abandonment rate and try to keep it as low as possible. So that's what we want to focus on today. We want to look at 7 things that we've noticed that can really drive up a cart abandonment rate. So these are things that you're going to want to avoid. So let's get into those. The first thing we're going to look at is one of the biggest offenders when it comes to increasing abandoned shopping cart rate, and that's hidden shipping and handling fees. There is very little more frustrating to a website user than to see a price listed on your website, go through a checkout process, and at some point realize that the actual price is much higher than they originally thought it was. The simplest way to deal with this is just be very transparent with your pricing. Make sure it is very clear to your customers when they look at your site that the price they see does not include shipping and handling, or that shipping and handling will be added on later. And if your shipping and handling costs are rather high, which happens sometimes, it's unavoidable, consider taking more drastic measures like integrating some of that price into the price that you show on your website, or just including an estimate right there on the site. Or consider offering a minimum purchase amount that will allow a customer to get free shipping. But just don't surprise someone with an extra cost late in the checkout process, or they'll be very, very likely to abandon their purchase. The second thing we're going to look at is not offering an option to check out as a guest. In other words, forcing customers to log into your site or to create an account on your site in order to complete a purchase. This is a big no-no. I understand that you would rather have someone create an account because it makes them more likely to be a return customer, but do not force them to. Give them the option to just get that one-time purchase out of the way. And if you really want to try to get some emails together to help your email marketing campaigns, give customers an incentive to opt in when they receive their order confirmation. And by the way, if you do offer the option to create an account, which you still should, as long as you give the option to not create an account, make sure to offer the option to use social media accounts to sign in. This makes it much easier for users and makes them much more likely to log back into their account the next time they come to your site. Next, let's talk about overcomplicated checkout forms. Now, just the sight of a lot of fields to fill out on a checkout form is enough to make someone just bounce. So just marking things not required or only marking certain things required isn't enough. Really go through your checkout process and look at all the things you ask people and ask yourself, is this really necessary? For example, asking people, how did you hear about us? That's what Google Analytics is for. If your tracking is set up right, you don't need to ask that. Or asking someone to refer a friend before they finish completing their checkout process. Wait until after they've completed the process and then ask them for referrals. You can even offer them an incentive on their next purchase to try to make them a repeat customer. Also, a little note, make sure there's always an option to click same as shipping address under the billing address, so someone doesn't have to fill out the same thing twice. This is something that really annoys people. And also, it's something that you can offer as an incentive for creating an account on your website. Remind people that they won't have to fill out these forms again in the future. So the next thing we're going to look at is actually in a similar vein to the last thing we looked at, and that's having too many steps in your checkout process. In other words, how many pages do people have to go through to complete the process? Ideally, just one. Single-page checkout has been shown to convert about 10 to 20% higher than multi-page checkout, and it allows customers to get through the process quicker, leaving them less time to abandon their shopping cart. However, if multi-page checkout is your only option, if you can't use single-page checkout for whatever reason, you can still make it work. Make sure you have a progress bar at the top of each page to show how many more steps the customer has to go through, and be sure to consolidate those steps as much as possible to make the process as quick as possible. Next, let's talk about error messages, specifically ambiguous error messages. If someone runs into even a little bit of trouble getting through your checkout process, that greatly increases the chances that they're not going to complete it. So make sure that if you have to give an error message, that the form fields are coded to provide specific error messages. For example, if a customer enters their phone number incorrectly, the error message should tell them specifically what they did wrong. Maybe they included parentheses when they weren't supposed to, or hyphens when they weren't supposed to, or their phone number doesn't have enough digits, or whatever. Just make sure to tell them specifically what went wrong. Don't just have a little red highlight that says, "Oops, this is broken." That's not helpful. Also, make sure the error message is right underneath the field in question. Don't make someone go looking for an error message to figure out what went wrong, because they won't look very hard before they just abandon their shopping cart. Okay, let's talk about promos, specifically the boxes where promo codes are entered during checkout. I'm going to make this very simple for you. If you don't make the promo code box extra conspicuous, you're probably better off not offering promo codes at all. Promo codes are usually used to bring people to your website. So if you bring a new customer to your website with a promo code and then they can't figure out how to use it, there's no way they're going to complete that purchase. So make sure to put it somewhere very conspicuous, like in the sidebar where the order summary is, or somewhere during the payment info section. Better yet, make it even easier and just set up site-wide promotions that will automatically apply to every customer at checkout. And finally, having too many distractions during your checkout process. This can include overbearing headers and footers, or even including your main site navigation during the checkout process. Consider removing that, as it can be a real visual distraction to your customer. Something else to consider, I know you want to add upsells or cross-sells during your checkout process, and that's fine, but make sure it's done with a quick add option. Don't force someone to abandon the checkout process, go to a product page, and then add that item to their cart, and then come back to the checkout process, because a lot of the time, they will not come back. Also, instead of listing your entire return policy or your entire shipping policy, keep it to just the absolute essentials and then include a link to read more. And finally, rather than embedding your checkout, consider making it an enclosed pop-up that blocks out the screen behind it so the user can focus entirely on the checkout process in front of them. Okay, so those are our 7 deadly checkout sins that can increase shopping cart abandonment. So to sum up, less is more. Fewer distractions, fewer fields. Look at the info that you're asking for and just ask yourself what is really necessary. Sometimes you do need more information from your customer, but ask yourself, is there a better way to ask for that information? Is there anything I really don't need? Less is more. And one other piece of advice for you, be sure to really test your checkout process. Check and test and test and test. Look for drop-down menus that are broken. Look for anything that's broken. If possible, upload your checkout process to a dev site and just run through it over and over and over again. Look for anything that might turn your customers off. And do your best to look at your checkout process through an objective lens. Ask yourself, would I complete this checkout process? Because if the answer is no, then your customers definitely will not. All right, everybody, that's it for me. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please be sure to give us a like. It really helps us out. Leave a comment if you have any feedback. Be sure to subscribe to Conversion Giant for more great marketing videos every week. My name is Dan Cromar, SEO Manager at Conversion Giant, wishing you happy rankings until we meet again. No, okay, well... Okay. All right.